Hey everyone, it's Julie Muhn, Senior Research Analyst with Finovate. Today I'm following up with one of the speakers we hosted at last month's FinovateEurope conference, Rita Martins, HSBC's FinTech Partnership Lead, Finance and Risk Innovation. In this video, Rita's going to be sharing some of her top takeaways and discussing trends she saw pulsing throughout the event. Rita, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So to get started, let's have you briefly introduce yourself.
Of course. So hi everyone, I'm Rita Martins, and like you're saying, I lead FinTech Partnerships for HSBC. And that means from scouting fintechs to managing relationships to introducing fintechs to our SMEs internally, and also helping with any POCs or onboarding. So the full, I guess, end-to-end for our finance and risk SMEs internally.
Great. So at FinovateEurope, you spoke on a panel about open innovation and strategic partnerships. What were some of your top takeaways from this discussion?
Yes, it was a very interesting discussion. I think sometimes when you go to the panels, everyone almost like agrees with everyone. You have the same journey. And what I found really interesting was that we all had very different approaches for innovation. There was two big companies in there. So there was myself and there was Tia from Lloyd's. And it was interesting because you would think that we'll have similar approaches, but I think what was clear from the panel is that it's almost a journey, and different methodologies seem to work for different companies, depending on the culture, also depending on how much time the different SMEs have. And then I guess the other key theme that was really coming out through discussion is that people is really at the forefront of innovation. So sometimes we think it's more about technology, then they're finding the right fintechs and cool technology, but people is so much more important for fintechs, partnerships and innovation. So I felt like those two were quite interesting that came through the panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is interesting, that kind of diverse approach that just works for different companies there. So let's take a look at the event in general. What were some of the trends that resonated with you and your work?
So there was an interesting discussion regarding Swift and their approach. Interesting, I think the host was saying, you always think that when you watch some of these discussions, you think you know the company, but actually you learn so much more. And I felt the same thing. Some of the teams that they talk about really, I guess, resonate with me, like the clouds, looking at technologies like AI and machine learning. It's something that the industry is looking more and more for. I found quite interesting the other team that they had was around how Swift is trying to really innovate, not just internally, but also with the ecosystem, that they're helping with some hackathons and so on. And that's something that it's not always talked about into these conferences. And I think it's probably like the future, the trends. Banks already do that quite often, where they partner with different banks, or they partner with universities or even with consultants to really look at one problem and try and solve it together. Mm-hmm. And that's, for me, it makes so much sense, because they all are going to have some core problems that we all have across industries. So why not come together, mm-hmm. trying and test a few different things, and try and get similar approaches for each one. So I found that was super interesting, really good discussion.
Very cool. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all.
Great. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it definitely, as you said, feeds into that open innovation theme that you had in your panel discussion there. So shifting from trends and content to the demo side of things at FinovateEurope, which demo stuck out to you and why?
Interesting. I think the one that I do remember well is Biblia. I'm hoping I'm saying the name correctly. I typically, to be honest, it's probably a mistake that we do. We always go and see like the fintech, the demos of the ones that we're working with, like the different technology that we're working with. And I thought Biblia was so interesting because they're working in the NFT space, and it's so new for everyone. I myself am still trying to learn all about it. And what I found really interesting with the demo was they started really by explaining it in very simple terms, and then they went into the demo. And to be honest, I'm a very visual person. I'm always telling people, just show me the demo. Like I need to be able to see something. But I found it so interesting. It's such an interesting team, and it's so interesting that there is already someone working on NFTs and trying to make some business out of it. So I thought that was super interesting one for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And it's crazy just how much we've seen surrounding NFTs. I feel like since the Finovate Europe show, I've learned a lot, but I feel like I still have a lot to learn about NFTs for sure. Great. Well, finally, looking ahead, what can the fintech and banking industry look forward to as far as top trends to expect for the remainder of this year?
So I think for this year, we'll have, I guess, continuation of the cloud and the AI teams for sure. There is also a big new trend this year around ESG, so environment, social, and government. There is a lot of new fintechs working on this space, trying and doing some great solutions, trying and doing some research. And there is also, which is slightly different than fintechs, but there is a lot of different companies trying to bring ESG into their brands. So what is that their social impact that we're trying to do? And then, of course, the new trend is the NFT, like we discussed. I'm sure that we're going to see much more in this space alongside the blockchain trends.
Yeah, it'll be fun to follow for sure, especially that ESG trend. It's one that I didn't see quite coming at the beginning of the year, but it's really taken off. I feel like on a weekly basis, we read news about a different company applying ESG into their business model. Well, thanks, Rita, for taking the time to share your thoughts today. This has been Rita Martins, FinTech Partnership Lead, Finance and Risk Innovation at HSBC. I'm Julie Muhn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.